stage looks a little different, it's because we're cut by 50%. Mr. Sinclair wanted to win the lottery and take us all to the Bahamas for a vacation, but he didn't win the lottery, but he took himself to the Bahamas for a vacation. Just kidding. Hey, Mina. Champ's here. Good. She can work with our little pup here. So we got we've got everybody excited. Hey, Mina. Step out here a little bit so everybody can see Olivia. So we're going to feature this, huh? There you go. Step right out in front of it, out here. Step right out here. Can you turn the camera on her? Yeah. So you see this little dog here? This is Olivia. We're going to feature her in a little story about the life-saving potential of this silent whistle. I'm going to tell you 2 stories tonight, both true, both relayed to me by the owners of their dogs. This will be the second one. You're not going to believe what this little dog survived. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you some ideas of the power of this tool. I'm also going to break it down and show you exactly how to use it. And then I'm going to tell you about what little Miss Olivia did with her brother Oliver about a month ago, and let you decide if this tool is worth putting in your tool bag. So the Champ and Olivia are going to sit there. They can go where they want to go. If you want to go sit with your mom, Mina, go ahead. Take Champ, take her with you. Yep. All right, so now I'm going to talk about this whistle. This is what they call an Acme 535. This, I believe, was the whistle that started it all. The Acme company is now one of the largest, if not the largest manufacturer of whistles in the world today. Oh, and before I go any further, if anyone's listening and they can't hear us, please call us. We got a brand new mic sound system. We're trying to make sure it works. So, Second Wind, if you're out there, let us know if you can hear us or not. So anyway, back to the whistle. When you get this whistle, I believe they invented the concept of this whistle started right about the 1900s, 1890, 1900, somewhere in there. I could be wrong on that. And it worked on the fact that a dog's hearing is way, way superior to ours. Not only can they hear just volume-wise, they can hear about 10 times better than us. They hear decibel levels at levels that, I mean, they're not as good at sonar as bats are, but they're not far removed. So they can hear and use sounds that we don't even know exist. Might explain why there's times when your dog's acting funny about things going on around them and you don't see or hear a thing, but they do. That's how good their hearing is, okay? So working on that principle, they also, whoever came up with the idea, they also figured not only can they hear these sounds that we can't, but they can hear them from much further away because of the way decibels work, which I don't think is 9 to 5. I think decibels work all the time. They travel further.
You said the sound's a little low.
Little low, okay.
Yeah.
How about now? I'm going to step up a little bit. Our main sound man's on the job. Thank you, Second Wind. I'm going to move up a little bit, speak up a little bit, and see if that helps him any. So that was the concept. These higher pitched decibel levels that humans can't hear more than a few feet away, a dog can hear. Now, I believe this was in the first bit of information I ever got about the Acme. Something about 2 miles away, this is an open pasture with no obstructions. I started using them in my guard dog company because of the times that, we'd have a large area to patrol and the dogs would be on the back side. The burglar would come into the front side. He'd be snipping the fence, fixing to crawl through and steal what he could steal. And the dogs would hear the snipping, they'd come show up. They'd see him, he'd see them. They always won. He would exit the premises, but there'd be just enough of a hole in that fence that my dogs could get out. We're talking essentially, to me, about $1,000 bill walking the streets of El Paso or Juarez, Mexico. And we would drive around, obviously, so we'd spend whole days driving around looking for them. And I remember using this whistle in the Panhandle, Amarillo, Texas area, when we went to some sheepdog trials. I'd see a lot of the guys using his whistles, and I thought, that kind of range. So we employed started training all our guard dogs to come to this whistle. I don't know if 2 miles in unobstructed pasture is. I'm sure that's accurate. I can say that we had dogs get lost, and we would drive around a block or two and ask people if they'd seen them, and someone would say, "Yeah, I saw one going that way." We'd go back to the site where they're supposed to be coming to be picked up and just blow this whistle, and they would come, and they would get in the vehicle. So we'd know from the person we talked to that was at least a mile away, and that's with obstruction. So what we got, Carol Ann?
Can you put that on your shirt?
Can you what?
Can you hang it on your shirt so they can hear you better?
Can I hang? Oh, is that?
Yeah,
You think that'll help? Yep.
There's a little, that little clip. Perfect.
Whoops. This might go more mono than stereo. Okay, see how that works. Testing 1, 2, 3. What do you think? Second win. Which, by the way, we owe you one, buddy. For that customer you sent us, beautiful little golden retrievers. Is that any better? Test. It's not any better. It means we got another screw up in our system. Turn it up?
There's a volume in the second mic, so you can turn the volume up.
Oh, that's the gain that you turn up. Yeah, you swipe the deal you have right there, you turn it up. That's what makes the bars go higher or lower.
I'll have to figure that out.
Well, is this doable, Troy? Because if it's just not loud enough, we can always switch over to the other system and see how that works. You want to try that, Carol Ann? Do we have the? See, we got all our cords. Bear with us, folks. You know we're not technocrats around here.
She said about the same.
Okay, so let's try this other one. See how that does. All you folks, pardon us for working technical stuff.
So if it's on. Okay, go ahead and say test.
Okay, testy. What do you think, Troy? Is that any better? Testy, testicles. Oops, can I say that on the air? I don't know. So I'm just going to clip this on, assume it's working, and continue talking, and I'm sure he'll get back to us in a minute. So, good. I can verify that my dogs have heard this probably a mile away in urban areas, which means there's a lot of houses and a lot of blockage. once I started using this whistle, I never lost a dog. We got every dog that ever got out and was wandering around somewhere looking for a free meal. So I'm sold on them. Later, I started using them. We had patrol dogs. We worked labor strikes and one or two prison riots and various riot type situations. We had patrol dogs in several different cities that patrol departments where they had a large drug dealing problem, crackheads taking over empty apartments. So we had the opportunity to try a lot of stuff, and this was again came in to be one of the handiest tools I had. We could take, for instance, if you're a police officer and you're having to do a building search, military, and your dog's walking point, and you get a radio call saying, hey, sniper at 10 o'clock, 300 meters, whatever, you need to get your dog back to you, but you don't want to reveal your position or make yourself obvious. You're doing a building search through a dark building, and there's somebody in there that's supposed to be armed, and all of a sudden, or somebody you're searching for, and all of a sudden you get a radio call saying, this guy's armed, get your dog out of there. You can use this whistle to call the dog back to you in a secure position. If you think they're about to be discovered, you can use this whistle to down them in motion, put them out of sight. You can use this whistle to make them freeze and stand in place. You can take any command that you would want to give your dog and do it with this whistle. I'll explain how in a moment, but let me explain why. I believe this is actually more effective with a dog than your voice ever will be. Think about this. Dogs are extremely literal. How they learn something is how it is, right? So if you teach your dog to stay by saying, stay, then you need to continue saying it with that tone and that volume. If you teach your dog to down or come by saying, come here, you need to keep your tone and your volume about the same. Personal belief only, but think about this. You may or may not have experienced this. Your dog's out sniffing, checking out trees and fire hydrants, and you're back 30, 40 yards, and you're ready to go home, and you say, hey, Pooch, Fido, come here, come on, buddy. And he's sniffing, and then he ignores you, and you get a little pissed, and you go, I said, come here. And he still ain't listening. He's sniffing. He did glance at you once, and you said, I said, come here, damn it. Damn it not being part of the command he learned, nor is that tone of come here the tone that he learned when you taught him come here. You are now upset. You start going to go wring his little neck, and he looks up and sees you and goes, oh, you want to play chase? And he takes off, and you, like a fool, chase after him, and he's just taught you a brand new game, right? This whistle never gets excited, never gets upset. It's always consistent. Not only is it always consistent, it's extremely loud to a dog's hearing. Not only is it consistent and loud, the whistle only means one thing. That whistle tone is unique to this dog. There's no room for confusion. There's no room to wonder what was meant. This is so crystal clear to the dog that your odds of compliance are going to be 99.9%, okay? So, how do you use a whistle to save your dog's life? Hey, baby. So here's the first little true story I know of, and some of you have heard me mention this on other videos we've done. We had a customer, a lady customer. She had a Great Dane and a German Shepherd. German Shepherd was like 10 months old. The Great Dane was a year and a half old. Best buddies. And she lives in Arlington, Texas. And way back a year or so ago, they had a bunch of tornadoes hit Arlington about 2 o'clock in the morning. Unbeknownst to her, her house was hit, or her neighborhood was hit. She didn't wake up through the siren. She slept through everything. She gets up the next morning. She's going about her normal routine, which is let the two dogs out in the backyard, turn around, go back, get ready for work, get dressed or whatever you got to do. Go back, call the dogs in, feed the dogs. She goes through her routine. Dog's been out for the usual 20, 30 minutes. She goes to the back door, opens the door, calls her for her dogs. No dogs. They don't come. She calls again. No dogs. They don't come. She thinks, well, what the heck? She steps out in the backyard, looks to the right over her shoulder, and sees that her fence is laying on the ground. And these two young dogs have been out running the neighborhood for at least a half an hour. She panics, runs around to the front of the house, starts screaming and hollering their names. One or two of her neighbors stick their head out the door and go, hey, Diane, what's the matter? And she goes, they're gone, they're gone. And one of them says, oh, your dogs, I saw them about 20 minutes ago. They were going that way. And the other neighbor hollers and says, hey, come on, we'll get in the car and go get them. And she goes, okay. And then she remembered the whistle. She runs inside. She comes back out. She had practiced religiously the use of this whistle when she got her dogs home. She followed every bit of instruction I gave her on how to train the dogs to this sound. She stepped in her front yard. She blew the whistle. The neighbor that said, hey, jump in the car, I'll drive you, hollers at her, come on, come on, come on. She said, wait a minute. Let's see what happens. She waited a few minutes. She blew the whistle. She waited. She blew the whistle again. All of a sudden, the neighbor in the house next door hollers, there they are, and points. And a full city urban block away was a Great Dane and a German Shepherd coming around the corner and down the street back home. All because of this whistle and their religious training that she had done when she got the dogs back home. So that's the power of this whistle. Now, how do you use it? You're going to get it if you, an Acme 535, remember, I believe in going with the best, and I usually prefer the people who invent a tool because I figure if they had the idea of, I'm watching the champ and the dog are playing over here, if they invented it, they must know how to get it right. So if you'll look on the barrel, can you close up on this a little bit, Carol Ann? Let me know when you're up real close. Ready? Okay, so when you get it, you'll have a cap. It's what? Super close. All right, great. All right, that's what we need. You're going to pull your cap off, and just because I use mine so much, I wanted the longest lasting one I could find, so I have the gold plated. Normally they're stainless steel that you're going to buy. This should last me 3 lifetimes. So you pull the cap off, and then you're going to twist it, and you'll see all these rings. Each ring on this whistle has the potential to be a different command. I'm going to demonstrate it in just a minute, but I want you to understand you can actually make each one of these rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 commands right there. You can make a long blast for one command. For instance, the way I do my patrol dogs, we had 3 commands we used with the whistle. Front, which means come and sit here while I reattach your leash. Down, which means I don't care if you're chasing a cat, drop to the ground and stay. And heel, of course, which means come get in my left side. The front command, which is the most important one I feel for people owning dogs not professionally. I'd set the whistle on the 3rd ring right here, and I'd blow one long blast. Olivia's over here looking at me like, wait a minute, were you calling me? I didn't say her name first, so she doesn't know. Then, on the same ring, without having to adjust anything, I will do. Just put the camera over there. Put the camera over there. Now that 2 blasts means down. No one said this dog's name. No one said anything to her. No one rehearsed or practiced this. You just saw me go toot toot. And what did our little dog do, who's playing with someone else? She interrupted her play to follow her command. Thank you, Olivia. You did great. So there is the effectiveness of this little bitty whistle. Even when dogs are busy playing with their friends, they can hear that sound, hear that command, and they'll follow through. So that's the power of the whistle. That's the ability you'll have if you work with it consistently. And everyone has their own way of training. I'm not going to delve into all the different ways you can do it. For me, I believe teaching's always done on the positive side. Training's done on I like treats for teaching. I like tugs, balls for training. So once the dogs learn the command, I get off the food and I go to tugs, balls, whatever it takes. And I go to just everyday action. I don't set aside a special time to train. I just teach the dog by consistently involving them in my life. That's why we got lifestyle dog training. I involve them in what I'm doing during the day, throw these commands at them, and for the first 90 days, I make sure they always want to do that command. And if that command is learned with this whistle, you're going to get amazing compliance from your dog. That I can guarantee you. Now let me give you a little Olivia's story. Hey, champ, could you bring her out over here in the light? Maybe she can lay down and, yeah. And you can watch them play while I tell this little tale. All right, Amanda, I forgot, what's her last name, Carol Ann, remember?
No.
Huh?
I just remember the first name.
All right, Amanda, I think David's her husband. I trained a little Aussie for them over a year ago, and they were kind enough to come back and ask me to do it again when they purchased this little girl. So, so they dropped her off a few days ago, and Amanda was telling me where they live. She thanked me for training her Oliver to follow the silent whistle, because where she lives, she said behind her house there's what she called a green belt. In other words, it's an open pasture type place, and beyond that is a bunch of woods and kind of a undeveloped area. So about 3 or 4 weeks before we set up the appointment to bring Olivia in, she went out the backyard, looked out, and saw a fence post was down. And the fence was down right there at that area. No idea how it got knocked down, but it was down. And she realized that Olivia and Oliver had bolted the fence, and they were who knows where. And I get the impression from the way she described it to me, out of her back porch, it's kind of a raised area. She looked out past the greenway, as she called it, towards the line of the woods, and there she saw, and I asked her how far it is. She said it's probably 100 yards or better. She said football field or better. There she saw Olivia and Oliver just having a time of their lives, boy, just playing up a storm with 2 coyotes. These young pups were playing. She thought they were at least kind of interacting, because the coyotes seemed to be all congregating around the 2 of them. They seemed to have one of the dogs kind of separated, and she screamed bloody murder at her husband, who then came running out the door, saw what was going on, immediately started calling Oliver, because he was trained, and they knew he'd come if he heard a command, and Olivia would follow him. That was the hope. Unfortunately, either they were too distracted with the coyotes, and no one was sure what the coyotes were doing. Amanda told me they had seen a pack of, a female coyote the year prior with 3 pups walking back there in that area. They're assuming that these are now those pups grown up. Probably not as aggressive as an adult would be because they hadn't already started to fight, but probably the mother was not far away, and that would not be good for these two little dogs. So her husband's screaming his lungs out, trying to get him to come back, and she remembers the whistle. She runs in the house. She grabs the whistle. Her husband is now running towards the dogs, right? She blows the whistle for the recall command, the front command for Oliver. She said she saw him perk up his ear. The coyote was standing, one of the coyotes was standing over Oliver with his chin resting on his shoulders. We all know what that probably leads to. This coyote was fixing to probably do a little bit of sparring with the poor little mini Aussie, or not mini Aussie, the poor little Aussie. That whistle blew, and she said she could see Oliver's head pick up and his ears perk from a distance, she thinks. And just like he was shot out of a cannon, he busted loose from that coyote and started running home, with this little girl, Olivia, following her best buddy a foot or two behind him. So she told me this story, and then as she got ready to, we put Olivia in the kennel, thankfully. She thanked me for training them to use this whistle and wanted to make sure I was still using this whistle on all the dogs we trained. And I assured her I will never not train a dog with this whistle. So those are 2 incidences that occur to people living in a very urban environment where this whistle has been literally, possibly, a lifesaver for their dogs. I cannot stress it enough. If you want your dogs to always be safe, this whistle training is one of the best tools you can ever get. So anyone's got questions about it, anyone's got things they'd like to know more about the whistle, it's one of my favorite topics if you hadn't guessed. Just send us a comment down here. We check all our comments. We answer all our comments. And I'm supposed to say like, share, subscribe, please. Wait, we got a question here. What do we got, Carol Ann?
Well, a gentleman said interesting. Thank you, DC, Florida.
Oh, thank you, DC. Appreciate that. I really do. Anyway, if you got some more questions, if you got some more thoughts, if you just want to call us up and like DC did and say thank you, we'd appreciate it. And I guess at that, we'll see you guys next week, next Thursday. I do want to say, because y'all know every now and then, we're a pretty homemade sort of throw together group. We didn't get a chance to go last week. We had some COVID problems at the kennel. We're kind of short-handed. We got all that taken care of. But from time to time, if we miss a Thursday, it will be posted on my Facebook page. So if you don't see a notice, we may not be going that night, but even if we're not going that night, you can watch one of the other videos. We got quite a few of them. So check it out. We'll take care of Olivia. What do you say, Olivia? Hey, sweet girl. And whoops.
Roy says, what's the name brand again?
Acme. It's an Acme 535. Hey, baby.
And I'll text them the information, tell them.
All right. Appreciate you, folks. Olivia's ready.